Alright, good morning, our friends and fiends. How you guys doing? Well, at least it's morning for me. I don't know. If you're watching it live, you are where you are. So it might be morning or not. And if you're watching it on the VOD, I have no clue what time it is. You tell me. But, how's it going? It's going pretty well for me. It's the end of the week. We're into the weekend now. Played a little D&D yesterday. No D&D tomorrow, though. Our DM's on call, so... luckily, they're getting some staff help, so we will be playing more often. It's always nice. For a while, we've been playing every other week, essentially. And so now we're getting to a place where we're going to actually be more consistent than that, which is nice. Here up a little bit. Go. So, hopefully things are going well for you guys. We are, today I want to talk a little bit about solo RPG stuff, solo TTRPG D&D stuff, because I think that is what we are going to do for today. Well, I know that's what we're going to do for today, but I think I might be doing some streaming of that coming up. So if you are unfamiliar with the channel, back a while ago, we did a campaign that, it kind of petered off, but it happens like that sometimes, where I was playing a solo D&D game where we were playing Leah, who was a wizard. I don't think I'm going to go back to that campaign. I thought about doing, because we haven't done solo TTRPG stuff in a while. I was like, oh, well, I'm getting kind of, after I was reading through more Ironsworn stuff and the Delve and trying out the Delve rules and things that I liked about that and things that I think would have helped me be more successful in that campaign, I want to incorporate and try out. And so as I was sort of puttering around with Ironsworn, specifically the Delve mechanics, the Delve book is right here. And specifically the threat mechanics that are in there, because that was one of the things that I felt like I really struggled with the campaign with Leia, is that everything just kind of spiraled out, and so the plot started to get larger and larger and larger, and new things would pop up, but it was really difficult to try to like bring things to closure. And every time that we did, and very much like a Hydra, and a new head popped up, two where there used to be one. So trying to look for a way to do that, and I feel like the threat mechanics from the Delve book are helpful for that, because it's kind of based off of action or front play, which if you guys are familiar with Apocalypse World, Dungeon World, or anything that's powered by the Apocalypse, you'll be pretty familiar with fronts. But using those as a actual mechanic within the game when you're doing it by yourself. So I like that, and I felt like I could try that again. I think if I did it on stream, focusing on that, things might go a little bit better. And I thought about jumping back into Leah's campaign and doing that. But as I thought about it, I was like, it's been so long now that I'd have to go back and really scour notes and probably rewatch stuff. I'm like, I'm not sure if I have the time to sort through hours of my own content to figure out where I'm picking up from and do my due diligence to make sure that goes off correctly. And like, unfortunately, I think we're just gonna have to start from a blank slate. I really hate to put Leah's character down and be done with her fun campaign. I really enjoyed it. Sometimes that's just how it goes, though. The work to get back into it would be so much at this point, because I've forgotten so much about that campaign, because I've played so much TTRPGs, specifically D&D, since then, that it would be difficult to do. I've played other solo games since then, just for my own personal fun, as well as been running a campaign and playing in two other I guess technically like 3 other campaigns during that time. So maybe even 4. I don't know, maybe even 4, maybe even 5 actually. Now that you think about it. Anyways, it's been a lot of D&D, and it's really hard to keep Leah's stuff straight anymore. So I'm like, well, I should start over blank, start over fresh. I've had an idea that's been cooking in the back of my brain for a while, and I was like, this is a good opportunity, I feel like, to jump in and maybe use some of that to really kind of go after it. Because it's been something that I've wanted to do for a while, and I thought, oh, well, it might be a fun thing to do as a campaign, like a standard D&D campaign, or whatever system I chose to run in. I could have used something else. I was thinking maybe something like the age system, maybe something that's like Blue Rose or the Game of Thrones version of age system, just because it's going to be a little bit more like that. I wanted to have a little bit more mechanics as far as politics, because it's probably going to end up being a relatively heavy politics game, or at least potentially can go that route. But I think I'll stick with D&D because it's the most popular thing, and I think that it will allow us to do some of the fun stuff. It allows me to look at some of the things that I also want to check out, some more of the Bastion rules and things like that, and focus a little bit more on downtime play, things like that. So I think that it's going to be a little bit of a slower burning campaign. But in doing so, I started setting up some of that stuff, and really just last weekend. So I thought, oh well, for this stream, we'll jump in, we'll take a look at it, look at everything that I've done so far, and kind of go on from there. So what I've done kind of thus far are things that I've started on, and I was like, oh, I've got the reference document that I've set up, I have the premise, the campaign scope, which I think, and its focus, its intent, have an idea of its setting, and pulled together some of the ancestry groups, because we're going to set this again in sort of my own homebrew world that we've been setting things in, that I'm running another campaign in for friends, like a normal D&D campaign. So I think it'd be jump in and work on that. Oh, hey Rocky, how are you? How are you doing? So yeah, I think that's kind of what we're going to do. I think we're going to jump in and do that and take a look at it. So I think the easiest thing to do is, where do we want to start? Do we want to start... we can either start on the document, or we can start on the map. Let's start with the document first. It's a little more boring to look at, but we can charge through it very quickly, and then we'll jump over and take a look at the map stuff, which is probably where we're going to do the lion's share of our working today. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to do more streaming on Twitch. I've been doing most of my streaming on YouTube. And now I finally got a way that I can just stream to both, which makes things the best of both worlds, at least for right now. In a way that's pretty easy to get off the ground. Yeah, a brand new solo campaign. That's what we're talking about, yeah. So I think let's jump over to the document. I'll fling you guys over there. And from there, we'll move on, and then we'll take a look at what's that. There we go. Okay. So the working title right now is A River Apart. That's going to be sort of the big idea. So the basic premise, we'll just read it out. King's Ward comes of age rewarded with title and privilege, but finds himself immediately hunted by political wolves. His only chance is to escape across the river to his new holding, beyond the kingdom's frontier, to eke out a hard life in a ferocious and hostile land. So we're going to have a very frontier-oriented kind of play. I wanted to do, like I said, I wanted to focus in a little bit more on the Bastion aspect of that. So I'm like, okay, this is a person who's going to have maybe a few retainers. I think that's going to give us an opportunity to maybe play some different NPCs solo. So we can have our one main person, and they can bring people with them, but also they can go off and do their own thing, while our main PC is a lord, essentially. So I wanted to give us, that's going to give us a lot of options as to styles and different types of play that we can do, which I really think will be helpful. And who knows, we may end up falling in love with one of the retainers and not really like the main character that much. I don't think they're going to be super useful in the beginning, because I think they're coming of age, so I think they're going to be really young. I think they're going to be inexperienced. I think I'm going to actually tamp down like their ability scores and proficiencies and stuff to be like, they are not super experienced in life yet. So they'll build on that as the campaign goes. So they're going to rely, especially early on, a lot more on those retainers who are going to be older and more mature and more proficient at most things, especially this part down here at the eking out a hard life in a ferocious and hostile land. That'll be the part that's going to be kind of tough for them. And then I had an idea, so I just tossed it in here. I don't know if we're going to go with this. Perhaps once he's across the river and set up, the PC finds some threat to the kingdom. This will make sense when we look at the map. A challenge where he'll need to contend with political enemies against him within the kingdom to get access to the sovereign to warn them of the coming danger. This will make a lot more sense when we look at the map, because the area that we ended up picking is absolutely surrounded by a lot of different factions and potential threats. So, you know, it's not going to be a great situation. I've really kind of put myself in a corner here. It'll be all right. We'll figure it out, but you know, it's not going to be easy. And of course, our character could die. That can always happen, and that could be the end of their story. But this will also be a good opportunity to flesh out a little bit more of my own homebrew world where all this stuff's going to take place, which I always like every time that I'm picking a new campaign, is like pick a different corner of the world and be like, I'm going to develop this a little bit more. Because while the world is large, like it truly is an Earth-like size, it isn't super developed because that takes so long to do. So it's really just finding specific pockets and then developing those pockets as I play through them, because I find that a little bit more fun than just straight world building, which is enjoyable, but I find it more fun to play in those spaces so they develop more organically and they get a little bit more stress tested than me just writing stuff down in a document. What's going to be the scope of this campaign? So the scope of this campaign is going to be 1 through 11. And the way that I'm going to do this is level up with completion of a box on the milestone track for the Iron Sworn. So Iron Sworn, let's see if there's a, I don't know why I'm picking up the book. I can literally just pick up the PDF. That'll be a lot easier than trying to show you guys a book on camera. Let's go, Iron Sworn. Yeah, actually I can just pull up the character sheet. That will have it in it. Go, so let me throw you guys over there so you guys can... Okay, come on. Sometimes OBS is not helpful. Do the thing, please. There we go. All right. So this is what in Iron Sworn your quests are called vows. You swear to take care of them. As you can see, they're right here in the middle. They've got 10 little boxes. And there are different types of vows. They go from troublesome, very easy, scales all the way up to epic. So what we were doing for this campaign would be sort of like an epic vow, which is essentially going to be like the main thing that you would do in an Iron Sworn solo campaign. Be like, this is the main thing I'm going to do, like avenge my father's death or whatever it is. It's going to be like the main thing. And it takes a whole lot of stuff. You can get up to basically, what is it? It's 4 ticks per box. There's 10 boxes, so you can potentially do up to 40 and even more milestones along that quest to getting it finished. Because of the way the Iron Sworn works. So it's not important as far, because we're not going to use the Iron Sworn mechanics as far as tracking this stuff. This is definitely still going to be a D&D campaign, but I am going to pull in some of that stuff just because things like being able to track the quests in a solo campaign is one of the things that I struggled with in the last campaign. So I want to make sure that I have a better framework for doing that and for leveling up. So as we start to pick off those boxes, and here I'll throw it back. As we start to pick out those boxes, that'll give us our level ups. So every time that we fill up like one of those major milestones, that'll prompt us to be like, hey, that's the time to level up. And so that way we have the main campaign, which is going to be this aspect here where he's just trying to survive and trying to get to a place of safety and security. And so that's when we'll get the level ups, when we complete one of those boxes. It's a milestone. And then the idea is that all the other stuff, and this is down here, and down here. So the main quest is going to give you those XP rewards that we talked about. Any of those side quests that we do are going to give us our other rewards. So that's how we're going to get loot. So that's how we're going to get NPC retainers and sidekicks and stuff like that. That's how we're going to get upgrades for our bastions, all that kind of stuff. So it'll be this juggling act about when do we focus on the main quest, when do we do the side quest stuff. And as we get more retainers, we can send the retainers off on the side quests. So is this in Iron Sworn? No, this is a D&D solo campaign. I'm just using the Iron Sworn framework for this quest aspect and the threats, just because there's not anything native to that in D&D, and they in the time that I've played some Ironsworn, I felt like these things did work out pretty well. So I liked it. One of the things that I really struggled with Leah's campaign is that we had our sort of main quest, and nothing happened if we weren't taking on the main quest. We got mired in a whole bunch of other stuff that was going on, which is plenty fun, but then it felt like that quest was very static, and I don't want that. That's why I'm pulling in sort of the threat mechanics aspect from Ironsworn Delve. So we'll do levels 1 through 11, and then 11th level we'll have some sort of capstone adventure where everything kind of comes to a climax to resolve the campaign premise. So the idea with this one, like I said, is going to be a slower burn. It's going to be longer time frames of play. So instead of doing things like in a typical D&D thing, you can go from level 1 to 20 in-world time. They can very much just be like a few weeks, even a few months. This is a thing where it's like, I want it to be a little bit more focused on weeks and months and seasons and even years at this aspect. We're going to see that our main character kind of grow up, and we'll focus on a little bit more of that, especially with the Bastion mechanics and Dominion play, where they're going to be spending a lot more time like trying to get crops set up and trying to build a home and protect them from the coming winter and those sorts of things. Because the area that we're setting in, the winters are going to be pretty bad, so they want to make sure that they are ready for that. We'll focus more on that Bastion Dominion management, those seasonal improvements, and the downtime between those spikes of standard D&D adventure play where we run off and kill goblins and loot stuff. We're going to start with that young blank slate PC who's not going to be pretty good at anything. I think we're probably going to start off with 8s and everything, most everything. Plus whatever ancestry they're going to be. Well, you don't get anything from the ancestors anymore. Because we're going to try to use the 2024 rules for the most part. There's some stuff that I don't like about the 2024 rule changes in D&D. So in those, I'm going to reserve the right to use stuff from 2014 version. Or my own homebrew if I don't like what's in there. But for the most part, we're going to try to play it pretty close to 2024 vanilla, I guess. And really only do the things that I feel like are not going to be super useful for our campaign. Yeah, they're not gonna have a lot of stuff going on at the beginning. They're gonna need to recruit and rely on adept NPCs and sidekicks to help them succeed, because they're not gonna be very good right out the gate. The main quest gives us those XP. The side quest is going to give us all the fun stuff that makes us more powerful. That's not levels. And when we do chasing side quests, we have this pass or fail, I think is how we're going to set this up. So there's a 50-50 chance when we're chasing down our side quests that the menace advances on the main quest. That's going to be our threat rules from Ironsworn, which essentially the threat starts to pick up. And if the threat completes its inbox track before you do, then things immediately come to a climax, and you are not the one bringing them to a climax. So that'll mean, like, if we have a lot of political rivals, that means we're gonna have things like a bunch of assassins show up, or an army's gonna make their way across the river, or it's gonna be really bad. It's gonna be very, very bad. Doesn't mean that we're necessarily guaranteed to die, but it does mean that our major premise here, that quest is going to no longer be completable. So we will have not escaped across the river, and we will not have eked out our hard life. Things will go very poorly. All right, so we can talk a little bit about the campaign setting. Like, where is this actually, the locale of this adventure campaign? It's going to be set in a boreal forest. The thing that's jumped to my mind, that's like an evergreen forest or taiga. The thing that jumped to my mind immediately was the Bourne Woods, which is the place where they filmed the beginning of the movie Gladiator, which is supposed to be in, Germania. In the movie, it's actually in England though. England? I think it's England. It's in Britain for sure. I think it's in England. So That's what it looks like. We can. And not that. Show you guys an image quick. I was looking for a more. Really, there's some really nice night shots of it in the film. I was thinking of. But yeah, I mean, it kind of looks like this. An area with a thick evergreen forest. Get out of here. So our language groups, we're going to have Greek and German. And then we're going to have some outliers of Iranic and Slavic languages that are kind of interspersed. I like to split up the languages and make them a little bit different. If you guys have seen some of the other work that I've done or watched me do in my prep for the campaign, the normal campaign I'm running with friends, I know that language is a thing that I'd like to focus on as being really, really important. There's a real easy way to add a lot of texture to a campaign, but also to make things easily very difficult for the PCs of a campaign. Just not being able to read or speak a language is a pretty big deal, especially because there are spells specifically for that. There are multiple spells specifically for that in D&D, and I like to make sure that they have a chance to like shine, those characters who decide to prep those spells or get scrolls with them, or however they manage to get across that. And the development of this area is there in the Marches or Frontier. So we have like the Heartlands, which are really, really developed and civilized. There's the Marches or Frontier that are kind of in the middle, and that's where I feel like classic D&D kind of takes place. There's a bunch of villages, little frontier towns, things of that time type. And then you have like the full deep wilds where there's not a lot of people in. And lots more weird monsters tend to abound in there. We have our ancestry groups, and these are broken up. So this will be where we're starting out. Don't know. Why is there a space here? I don't know what that did, that formatting weirdness. So, because of where we're setting it again in the world, and I rolled randomly for where we set it in the world. Which spec in this world that I set it in. And we rolled again, just like the campaign that I'm running for friends. We're just happened to roll an area where there's just not really any humans, so it's not going to be another not human-centric campaign. There's just not very many of them. So about 50% of the population is gnomes and half-elves. Gnomes, as far as, and we can just do this way, and we can do Dragon Lord. So one of the things that I do in the current campaign, this world that I run, is that gnomes and halflings are just one species. They're just one ancestry in the homebrew. You can mechanically they can be whatever you want. You can even use a goblin. If somebody told me they wanted to play a goblin and they just wanted it for one of the mechanical benefits of goblin, I was like, oh, you can just be what we call a halfer in the campaign world. Oh, you're just a halfer. And rather than be a goblin, unless they want to specifically play a goblin, which is fine. I just let them know if you decide to play something else that's not one of these ancestries, you're in this 4% down here. You're in this like others. Like you're a pretty rare occurrence. Like people don't see a lot of you. And a lot of people who look like you. But this includes like humans, every other sort of like ancestry from Inku and changelings, and everybody falls into this 4% gap. So not a ton. Half orcs, everything. And Dragonborn, similarly, I mix in Dragonborn, Lizard Folk, Yuan-Ti, Turtles. Those all fall into what we call Swords, or Saurians in the game. I go back and forth between the name and I haven't firmed it up yet. I think usually I call them Swords, though. Basically, anybody who's lizardy-like, anybody who's got scales, essentially, goes here. And again, they're all technically the same ancestry, but they look very drastically different, and you can play mechanically any of them. So it's likely that one of our main PC is probably going to be either a half or half elf. That's likely. I don't know yet. We haven't rolled for it. What I'll do is I'll probably just roll. If I'm lucky, I'll get this 4%, and then that makes being ostracized a little bit easier. It will certainly make our campaign harder. You also notice that we have half elves here, but we don't have a lot of humans or elves in this area. Elves are right nearby. That's right where they sort of end, unfortunately, as to where they're divvied up around the world. I just have essentially a big spreadsheet that just shows where all the different ancestries are in the world. I can give you sort of the clear demographics for whenever I, pick a pinpoint in the world, just like I did here. And then we have down here PC family and retainers, which I haven't filled out yet. So this is what I've done as far as setting up the prep document. I also, guys, want to show you guys the map. So before we do that, let me pull up. I'm gonna pull up this guy. Oh, let me see. Let me figure out languages. Right here. I should probably open the Dominions map. I want to go look for. And yep. Plate boundaries. We don't need to know the plate tectonics, but I do want to show you guys. Dominion. There we go. All right. Let me switch. Sorry, just half a second longer. All right, let's do. So this is the political map of our world, or my world, anyways. Looking at these. Hey. Yeah. So most of the land masses are on these in the southern hemisphere, and each different kind of color block here is a different large nation of some sort. Except for the red ones, which are monsters. Those are monster-held lands. And any place that you see that's just white just means that there's no very large state there. So it's a lot of smaller kingdoms and things like that. If you think about Germany, like pre-unification, where it's just like a ton of like little duchies and baronies and things like that. Princedoms, principalities. So you'll see a number of those. And so we are technically setting our campaign. The brush. We're setting our campaign. The campaign I'm running is set right here. Right in the center here. Right here. That's the one that I'm running for friends. Right there. And where we're going to run this one, which is not that far away as far as the world's concerned, we're going to be running it right here. This guy down here. So, remember when I said that threats kind of abound in this area? This is what I'm talking about. So, it's set in this little white hex, and it looks little, but remember that these hexes are hundreds of miles across. They're very large. And it's a white hex, which means that there are a number of smaller nations in there. Now you'll see that it has some pretty powerful neighbors. Directly to its southwest we see that there is a big bad evil guy that's hanging out down there, right next to us. That's not great. And right north of us, we have a pretty powerful nation as well, and next to them is another powerful nation. We're kind of stuck right in the middle. So lots of stuff can go wrong here. Now, I have other map views where we can take a look at some other stuff that's kind of going on in the same area. Different layers, if you will. So we have this one that kind of shows you everything that's going on as far as the dominions and nations and everything that sort. You can swap over here, and this will give us our languages, our language bases. So our language base is going to be, we're what? We're right here. So I said that there's going to be, it's mostly Germanic, but we also are sandwiched right in between Slavic and Greek. So that one powerful nation that's right above us, it's mostly Greek. Which will make sense. Iranic or Iranian is also going to be around. Not very far away. But most of our stuff's going to end up being Germanic. And you'll see that when we hop over to the zoomed in map where we started putting stuff together. And you'll see that the naming starts to show up. But I use this as far as like, oh, if you can tell that there are people from that other nation because they speak a different language. And there's probably going to be some friction there about this. Because I use language also as a rough sort of identifier as far as like ethnic groups. So we're in an area where there's there's quite a few different ethnicities and not a particularly large span of area. So there's probably a lot of people don't like each other so much. That's okay. Let me see. You know what? This might be easier if I just do. There we go. Let's do it this way. That makes it easier if I do it. So yeah. So we're starting in right here. And then this is my trade routes. So it kind of shows you how trade goes around the world. Do you need to do all this stuff to run D&D? Absolutely not. This is a crazy thing that I do. You don't need to do this. But this will show us where our big rivers are, as well as sort of the primary trade routes through them. So if we zoom right back into where we were, which is right here. I know, it's very sketchy, but you can see we're right here. So you'll see that there is a large river that moves out, headed northward, and dumps out into the Gold Sea, which is the area, again, that my other campaign, but situated right here is. So again, they look like they're really close, but remember that they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I mean, these guys are roughly 2,000 miles away from each other. Like, they are not that close, even though they look close on the map. Scale is important. So we're going to be sent right here. And we're also got this nice little thing. So if you notice this little emblem right there, if you haven't seen some of our mapping streams, you won't know this, but if you have, you definitely will recognize this icon, which is a little waterfall, which tells us that there is some sort of like landform or well-known landmark that is here. Since this is such a big river, I'm guessing it's probably something to do with the large river that's here. I haven't figured that out yet. I'll figure that out as we're mapping stuff. Figure out what I want to do with it. But I think that that's probably likely. What I might do is I might map out the points of interest on the region map first, and then if I end up with one that makes sense, then I'll use that one. If not, then I'll scrub it and I'll put something else in there. We'll let some random rolls generate something. If I like them, we'll keep it. If I don't like it, I'll replace it. Remember that we are not a slave to the dice rolls. The dice rolls are there to help us as far as generating things. So there is a overland trade route that runs through here, and a big river that dumps out into the sea up here. The Gold Sea. The north part of the Gold Sea. South part down here too. Yeah. That's it for these guys. Let me throw it back over to and then I'll change it. Go back to all right. I need to get this out of my face. No, I don't need to save any of my changes. Here we go. So we zoomed in level, so that was our big atlas map. That's our full like world map. So we zoomed in a little bit to region map. Or this is our zoom in of the atlas map, sorry. So if you wanted to see that area zoomed in where I've put some stuff. So we see that trade route that comes through here and splits off this way and this way. And it goes down into this rift valley that's down there. And it goes through both of these larger nations that we saw on the map. As it tries to avoid this area up here, which is all lorded over by a monster or PBEG of some type. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hexes. This is a very, very powerful bad guy. And then we get our one bad guy down here. If you can probably see that there's I tried to put a little bit of a border around the states just so we can have an idea. And then we've got our poor little dominion that's right here among a whole bunch of other big nasty stuff. So we'll see how that goes. So I knew when I was making this river part that I figured that a river would probably be the most natural barrier. Also, I've been working on river stuff. It would be a great barrier as to a way that provides some amount of buffer between a low-level PC and like all the people who potentially want him, all those political rivals that maybe don't want to see him succeed and maybe want to see him with a knife in his back. Or poisoned, or whatever the case may be. And a big river is a real good way to create some separation. Especially if there's not any crossing or ferry or any way to get across it easily. Especially not without being noticed. There's not a lot of subterfuge to be done there. So that is that's kind of our setup right now. And then I've gone ahead and I've zoomed into the region map, which is right here. So this is specifically this one square. Or hex. So we've zoomed out a little bit on. Or zoomed in, I should say. And you can see that there's some more river mapping. So there is another tributary that's here on top of our big river that goes through here. Boop, 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 boop. This river is called, I think I moved over here. The Ruhtikh Potámi. Potámi is Greek. The rest of that is not Greek. So I think that there's going to be a thing where it's like, if people in this area call it by Potámi, other people are not going to be happy with them. But it also has this tributary called the Flustor, which roughly translates as River of the Strong or the Tall or the Mountain. Flustor. So yep, this is where we are. We know that there is a landform or landmark somewhere in here, but we haven't done anything else here. So at this point, I think there's nothing to do except do a little bit of mapping. So what I'm going to do is let me pull the actual document up. What I'm going to do here, do it this way. That is not the right one. This is the document I'm looking for. All right, so we're going to open a new document tab. So this, let this be the reference. Can I open a sub tab on this? Yeah, let's go with, we'll do this. We'll make this the region map key. That'll give us something to put all this down on. Fine. But I also need to open up the other thing. So I'm going to throw you guys, just going to stare at my face for a second. I did not have this pulled up. Find this document real quick. Go find our hex mapping document. And we're going to do a little hex mapping, and we're going to fill out some of that stuff, and that's probably the majority of what we're going to do today. If you guys have any questions about anything, just feel free to ask. And we might jump over and we might do some family history or some stuff like that, but I feel like it'll be more useful for me to have an understanding of the physical space before I start creating something, or else, so that way I don't do anything that crosses wires. If I start making up stuff about a character and then that stuff isn't represented on the map, I'll feel weird about it. That's just a me thing. there's nothing I can do about that. That's just how my brain works. Alright, so we need this. That's good. You know what? I guess I can go ahead and why did you do that to me? I don't know why you did that. Change what I was looking at. What I wanted. Go here. Yeah, I think that'll work for us. All right. Yeah, I think the easiest way to do this will be to do that. Again, if you guys have any questions about what we're doing, if you guys seen me do the hex mapping before, it'll be very, very familiar. Let's go ahead and jump into it. I think, yeah, do that. So we'll start doing some rolls. So all of this, as we know, is in our marches or frontier. So I'm going to roll a d6 as we go down here, and we can actually... We're never going to put anything in those border hexes. So we can just turn them off. They're there so we know, like, as PCs travel through them, what the biome is, but I try not to put any, like, points of interest or anything in there. Those are always going to be open spaces on the map, which there are a lot of. But it just makes things easier as far as tracking what's in what hex and how they nest, and because these little border hexes technically are split up between larger hexes because they actually have vertices in the middle of them because they're borders. So I try not to put stuff there, just make my own life easier. All right, so we roll a d6 for each one of these. If we roll, we got a 50% chance that there's going to be a point of interest here. I guess in this instance, we'll say it's 4, 5, 6. Once we get down to this water, anytime that we have a water hex, it's actually a d10 that we roll. So in that case, we'll make it 1, 2, 3. How about that? Just to make things simpler. All right. All right, we rolled a 5, so there's nothing there. We're going to move on to this next hex. All right, so we rolled a 1. We're going to roll on the frontier, so we roll a d20. It'll be a 10. So a 10 is, there's some sort of natural resource here. We'll come back and we'll fill out some of the stuff later. So I'm just going to drop the little tags in for right now. Our little stamps. We keep both, actually. All right, nothing in that next hex. All right, in here, okay, we rolled a 10 again, so that's going to be another natural resource. Nothing there. Nothing there. All right, so we've got a holding here. That's good. We knew we were going to probably need at least one. Perfect. There. 19. What is 19? Remains. Okay. One I will actually write down because we use the same stamp for remains as well as ruins. It's our little pirate flag, raggedy pirate flag. Just so we know which one is which. Alright, nothing there. Alright, what is 13? Oh, 13's a ruins, so that's why we do that. So there's some ruins here. We'll find out what type of ruins here in a minute. Now I just want to get all our stuff down. tin, which was another natural resources. Usually not so heavy on the natural resources, but today we're going to be real heavy on them for some reason. The old Google Dice. They're a bit weird. There. Technically this needs to be a D10, sorry. Roll a 3. 11 is a construction, if I'm not mistaken. 8. Okay, so something's being built here. Okay. Nether holding. Perfect. Oh, interesting. So this region, so that means that this is actually a city. A city here. Nice. Makes sense. Sometimes the dice do what would make sense anyways. Cities have a way of showing up where two rivers come together, and that's what we got. So it makes total sense. Sometimes the dice don't make sense. We have to readjust, or we just let them be what they are. But this time made a lot of sense. All right, what is 18? There's our landmark, and it's probably gonna be on the river. Yeah, alright, we're real low. I like it. Gonna be a bunch of stuff here. Got a treasure room here. Use a star for. Nothing there. Nada. Some sort of wandering. Excellent. Move in. 12, which was... Ooh, roll twice and combine. Alright, roll twice and combine. 3 and 12. Okay, well, I can't use 12 again. I'm not going to make it 3 things. 3 and 6. A religious site and a dungeon/lair. Okay. Religious site and drop in our little dungeon lair here as well. Gives us a lot of versatility when I started including on my D20 list a list that was just like, hey, roll twice and combine them. It now takes things that was a list that only had 20 entries on it, and now it has a whole bunch of entries on it. Actually, that was already helpful because the way that I do ruins and constructions now, where I then roll to tell me what type of thing is being constructed or what thing has been ruined here. I find it to be very, very helpful. Alright, that's a hazard. Get our little rainy cloud. The landmark. Alright, nothing doing. Alright, this one we gotta roll D10 for. Nope. And for our very last hex in here, I rolled another 18. So another landmark down here. Interesting. Alright, so that kind of gives us an idea of where we're going to go. Now remember, this is only the region scale. Since we are literally doing a level 1 PC, this is not a scale at which we will be working yet. We're going to be working at actually 2 levels down from here is where we're going to be working from. We went from the atlas size to the region size, which each one of these little hexes is actually, from side to side, is 60 nautical miles across, which is, you know, a fair bit. And which is slightly longer than imperial or statute miles. So they're they're still big hexes at this point. We'll drop down to the county hexes, and the county hexes are only 10 nautical miles across. And then we'll drop down to the local hexes, which is where we're going to actually start the campaign. Kind of. I think there's going to be... I think we're going to probably pick up with the coming of age ceremony, or the people coming to get the young master at the coming of age ceremony. We might actually, because they're going to be traveling overland, likely that they are going to... we'll probably be looking at least the county hex scale for that. For that first initial, what is probably going to be a flight across the river. I think it's probably how that's going. Not quite sure yet. I have ideas in my mind, but I need to firm up some things. We need to firm some things up so that way I have a better idea as to where things could go and how. That's everything for the region map. So this I like. I think we got a lot of good stuff here. Got some nice, got a couple of lakes in here. We got some stuff that's being constructed. We have a whole bunch of natural resources. I really like this thing up here. I think this can be really important for maybe where we go in our campaign. We move up into the headwaters. Now that's going to be a really tough place to try to make your stand, try to eke out a living would be on a snow-capped mountain in a very, very cold and harsh climate. But from everything that I'm seeing here, got one holding over here and one holding over here. So one of these is going to probably going to be a king. Probably going to be wherever that this coming of age rite is. Most of those things seem to be on the east side of the river. So wherever we're going to go, we're probably going to end up on the west side of the river. Unless we could also have potentially our king or whoever's in charge here be in this city. This is a very large city. We could have them there. Yeah, as far as representing a barrier in this area, everything kind of across the Ruhtikh is pretty wide open. There's not much going on here except our natural resources. Everything else over here is kind of sparse. Got some remains, and that's about it. Most of our developed stuff's actually on the east/southeast side of the river, which I like. That's going to work out really well for us. So, do we want to determine some of these points, what these points of interest are? I think that'll be useful for us. I'm going to pull up. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to take this guy. I'm going to throw him here. The way we can start filling this out, because I think we're going to go with... Nope. There we go. So we got 04, 7, 7. I'm just mapping the hexes for our key. 9's where the remains are. 10, 11, 13. 14, 15, 17, 18, yep. 19, 20, 20. 4, 5, 6, 7, and finally with 31. I guess we'll roll that. So we have a natural resource. So natural. We have a holding, some remains, got some ruins. I think the ruins kind of give us a good idea too, maybe. This will be one of the things where I think what we're going to do is we might use the Xanthor's Guide, This Is Your Life. We're definitely probably going to give this guy the nobility background, I assume. We'll see what we roll up. Because I think this person could either be granted a title due to some sort of service. But my initial thought was that they probably have family, like a father or a mother or somebody like that, who is already a landed noble. And thus the sort of like political friction against this person. And I'm thinking it would be useful if these ruins become ruins at the very start of our campaign. Like that person gets attacked. They're literally right in between two other holdings. So it makes sense. So then if it was like a flight across the river from here, that'd be super useful. Into like one of these squares or something, wherever here. That could be really useful. As we scale down, we can figure out more, because these are going to be really, really powerful people. In fact, these are probably going to be, now that I think about it, these are probably going to be separate little fiefdoms. So these are not going to be like barons or earls or anything like that. These are going to be probably kings in their own right. So now I'm rethinking that, because that would make that our father and mother probably wears the crown, which I don't think I want to do for this campaign. I want this person to be kind of a lesser noble. So maybe not that. We'll see. Natural resources. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. And we've got the construction. Holding. And in fact, the city itself probably represents its own kingdom. Got a landmark. Got a treasure room. And we've got some wandering monsters. I screwed something up. Oh. Damn, I should remember to put the city there. Monster. Yeah. I know, because I didn't even get close to it. That's why I'm not seeing a suggestion. Got a mic in my way. So here we have our religious site plus monster lair. And this could be like potentially one of our BBEGs for the campaign. Is whatever this monster layer is down here, and I can move this down so you get bottom. And that last square down here, landmark, but yeah, don't really need to see that. And we're gonna have a hazard of some type that's there. Another landmark. And we'll finish out with another landmark. Perfect. I like this. So, we want to figure out what these things are right now. Which time we got left? And we're only at the hour mark. So, we can either jump in and start filling these guys out, which will be useful. Specifically knowing about the holdings and who's in them. Or we can jump over and do start figuring out stuff about our PC. I think it's going to be more useful. Let's develop these guys. I think that'll be more useful for us. Let's make these guys hitting who's appropriate, I guess. Oh, totally kick you guys off to another page. Okay. All right, So natural resources, really easy. We'll just start doing stuff over here. And actually, I'm going to take this and I'm going to throw it back over to this guy, because we're not going to need to look at the map really for the moment. We're just going to need these guys. All right, so we got some natural resources. We can do all the natural resources at once if we want to. All right, so we got to do some rolling. We're going to do D6 and D20 just for a theme. All right, 4 and 16. It's going to be natural and monstrosity. Okay. That just kind of gives us a theme as to if we need it. Yeah, I'm gonna put this over here. I can't imagine I would forget it, but always nice to think about it. Anything that's showing up here should be important for an average party that's in the 3rd tier of adventure when it comes to region mapping. So 11 through 16. So this would be like the top of stuff that we would actually come up against. That's why I'm like, that somewhere in our map here, what's probably going to be our primary antagonist of the campaign will reside. It's going to be our capstone person. I like this one because we know it's just straight up just monsters. Might be an evil church thing. I like that. We know that there's a difference already in languages, and we have the influence of the Greek in the nation that's right north of this area. So I'm getting the feeling that it might be a church influence thing as the church pushes its influence south down towards the Rift Valley, which the southern edges essentially of the world. So I like that. But for now, let's focus on our natural resource. Another D6. Rolled a 1. Alright, so it's something common. Some sort of common fauna that's in the area. Okay. What about animals? And we can roll our D4 again. And it's an undiscovered resource. Perfect. So this is going to be undiscovered / pristine common fauna. And then we can roll for some occupation. We rolled a 3. Uh-oh, that means there's monsters here. Do we want to know what those monsters are? I'm not sure that's super important to us right now. We know it's probably monstrosity themed, so there's a reason why people haven't been going after this fauna. And we could always do a little bit of research if we wanted to figure out what that might be. It's going to be a common animal, some common evergreen forest animal. Could be beaver, it could be like mule deer, it could be a lot of different things. The animal's not super important, especially since it's not developed. We just know that there are monsters in the area. And we know that it's at the region levels, and so we know that it's going to be a pretty potent style of monsters that are here. Which, if we're going across this river, not super great news for us, for our main character, but you live and you learn, or we'll die along the way. Alright, well that was number 2. I don't know why it's jumping down to a whole different page. I don't know what's going on with that formatting. No idea. I'm not gonna worry about that for right now. Okay. Good job. Okay. It's just Google Docs being weird, I guess. All right, so let's roll for another theme. 1 and 8. Excellent. This is 8. Giant. We got a giant theme in here. This is, of course, another natural resource. $60. 412. Oh, it's something rare. Some sort of rare water. And there's some sort of work camp around it. And there's a work camp. And let's roll for some occupation too. Roll the 1, which I believe is also monsters. Those are in the marches. It is indeed. Great. So, since we have the giant theme, this is likely going to be some sort of giant camp that's here. Not necessarily, but the nice thing about having the theme is it kind of gives us an idea. So, especially we are right in those APL 11 through 16. We are right in the sweet spot for some giants. We have quite a bit of giants here. Not great for those of us who have PCs who are about to be going into this area, probably. So, yikes. Alright, let's do a holding. This is going to be important. So this is our holding that's right here. Be probably on the river, likely, or abutting the river. The Kester. Right on the river. Alright. That's not the right thing. You know what? I don't even need that open. Close that earlier. Alright. We got a holding. We're gonna roll D10. We got a 5. Alright, some sort of... does that make sense here? Yeah. These are all technically independent domains, because these can't be... You know what? I rolled Crown Regent, so let's, they are right next to another larger nation, is the thing. Like, they are right abutting it. Just remember that this, we're here. Remember that this is a nation right here. So there's a chance that they could be somebody from there. Some, like, satrap or something like that. So in this case, let's roll... Because either is going to be an independent domain. Let's roll for it. An oracle roll. How likely do we think it is? I think it's unlikely that it's a satrap. I think it's extremely unlikely. No, I think it's unlikely. So -3. If we roll 11 or higher, well, I guess at this point, 14 or higher. The answer will be yes, it is a satrap. Oh, right on the die. Okay. This will be a satrap. Interesting, interesting. Alright, so we're gonna roll another d6. Wow, okay. Alright, well, it's just a manor house. I was gonna roll 2 dice and take the higher, but both of them came up 1s. Goodness, that's all I was rolling for. Okay, so just a manor house. And we know it's gonna be some sort of satrap. Or somebody who is... Essentially, they're a vassal state of the group to the north. Again, kind of makes us potentially those political enemies. Lots of stuff starting to clarify and make sense. All right, we didn't roll for a theme, so let's do that. All right, 5 and 5. All right, that's gonna be weird for sure. We've got an aberration or aberrant theme. Get this manor house here. That's it. Yeah. Holdings almost always, in the rare case, don't come with a settlement, but these guys are for sure going to come with a village. They're going to have an accompanying village. You can just go ahead and do the population. So the population for villages, the way that I set them up, is they need to be higher than 400, but no higher than 1,000. All right, well, can't take that, so we'll just roll again. So it's going to be 840, 840. I like to know the population because that gives me an idea. I use a structure called buying power, where essentially whatever the population is, wherever you go, 10% of the population equals to how much trade you can do in gold. So in this case, population is 840, but if we decided that, hey, I want to know, I want to buy some healing potions, can you do that? 10% of that is 84, so you could buy anything that was up to 84 price in gold. You can reasonably get your hands on. Anything more than that, it's not impossible that you can't get your hands on it here. It's that it's going to take time, like they're going to have to order it from someplace and have it shipped, or somebody has to make it, or it's not something you can just pick up. There's ways you can get your hands on it sometimes. Sometimes it's not. Like if you showed up in this place and you were like, can you build me like a keel boat or something like that, which is like 1,000 gold or something like that. They're like, yeah, but in 84 gold chunks, which would be, I don't know what the math of that is. I can do it real quick. You'd be like, yeah, but it's going to take us, I'd probably represent this as like weeks. Yeah, but it's probably going to take us a few, 2 to 3 months. Because we got to make it. Don't just have one of those hanging around. All right, and let's roll a d10. 6. We need to go down here to Crown Agent. And I rolled a 6. All right, so a Chancellor. Oh, wait, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Marshal. I should put this in here. And we can just roll for it now. Plus 3. All right. And their kind of dominion here is 4 hexes, which we could represent if we wanted to. Over to our map. I think what makes sense is the 4 hexes that are directly around them. So let's do this. Let's do you know that these guys are kind of traps, so let's of these guys to the north. Actually, can I? Oh, I can't eyedropper. Yes. We can get the actual color. Perfect. What I'll do is we'll go over here and we'll put a little border around this guy. We will know exactly his deal. His or her deal. Then if I pick this up, be able to see the whole thing. There you go. They're abutting right up against this other holding that's down here. this person technically does have land across the river. Now we could skirt that and be like, oh, if we wanted to give them charge of the lake. But there's a big difference between what you control and whether you're actually able to control it or not on the map. So, it'll depend. I think I'm going to be okay with where it is right now. This does seem like a reach of power from more powerful nation. There's probably not a ton of people going to be hanging out on these X's right here. Have I done? Yeah, I have done. I've done it a few times before. Yeah. Yeah. We're doing. Thanks for putting in, Cordona. Yeah, we're doing some mapping. I have, in fact, done this once or twice. Yeah. And if you guys ever want to use this program, it is a web app. It's called XTML. HEXTML. You can just search for it online. You'll find it. Now, what I really like about it is it allows you to save your files offline. And so you can always kind of use them whenever, wherever, as long as you have internet access and access to that file. So you can always save them offline, so there's no subscription or anything. It's all free. Really nice. The only downside is like the rivers and the trail or roads tool isn't the greatest in the world. It takes a lot of monkeying around to make stuff look great. All right, so that's one of our guys. So I like this. I think that's good. We could technically give them. Yeah, let's see what we end up with this guy, with this holding, and then that'll determine whether we want to take this hex and do away with that one and maybe give them this hex instead. We'll see. We'll see how many hexes this person ends up with as far as their like little domain. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna do their crown agent. Their satrap to the northern kingdom. So right above them is a much larger kingdom, and they're a vassal. We'll use vassal. We'll use vassal state to northern. There's just a little guy trying to make his way in the world. Not particularly powerful though, or at least not. Doesn't think he's gonna get attacked because he only has a manor house. Doesn't have like a big castle or anything like that. I think that's everything we need to do here. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think we've done this. I don't think we have anything left. All right, remains. All right, these are the ones that are up on the mountain. Right here. Go down to our remains. 19. Boop. Perfect. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it sounds awesome. So much info rather than art scene, nothing. You really building. Yeah. Here, if you didn't catch it earlier, I can show you a picture of what the entire world looks like. Let me hold up. Let's go. Open a recent here. That's our whole world. I know my stupid head's in the way, but that's what it looks like. And I can zoom into where we are right now. We are right here. So this is the hex that we're playing around with. Yeah, that's the whole world back there. This is the map that shows the rivers and trade routes of the world. That's it. Rid of this. Oop. Get out of here. So let's do our remains. All right, so we're gonna need a D6 and D20 so we can get our theme. All right, it's gonna be natural. It's all natural, baby. Elemental. Kind of gives us an idea. And our remains back down here. Yeah. They're D6. 2. All right, so they're recent. Chains are recent. And then we'll... yeah, the scale of it is, it truly is the size of Earth. It is an immense undertaking. It is not for the faint of heart, and don't worry, none of it is super well developed. I like to use it for my D&D games, but I was like, I want a world where all my D&D games happen, and so I only need to know stuff that happens in one world. And then I just pick different places on it and zoom in and do it that way. But yeah, overall, it's a massive world. And I built it from the very start. We did like plate tectonics from the very beginning to be like, hey, here's where the mountains are going to be and all that good stuff. And figure out where the biomes are supposed to go, what seems like it would naturally go. It was a huge process. It's not for the faint of heart, and I wouldn't recommend people do it. If you want to run D&D, just go run D&D. You don't need to do this. This is a sick, weird thing I do. You don't need to do this. Alright, so we got some vehicles and some items and object. That sounds good to me. Interesting. We've got an elemental theme, so we could do some weird stuff with our vehicles. This could be another like moat ship. We have those in the world. Or we have people who have harnessed floating rock, floating boulders as sort of a means to move through the air. They're pretty rare, but running into a mountain would be the sort of thing that would happen to them. And would make sense as to why there's a vehicle on top of a mountain. Could happen. Let's see for our causes here. 6 and 3. Survival. Yeah, that makes sense. And attack. I like it. I think apparent cause. I like that. Going to be like no changes necessary. Back and Sequent survival. They got attacked, and things went bad on the mountain. Hey, you're in the mountain. It's really cold up there. Things happen. Might have gotten a little Donner Party. Not sure. Maybe. Could end up with some ghouls up there. People eating other people. But yeah, probably exposure. They could have suffocated. Unlikely they suffocated. But probably exposure is probably what killed them. Potentially they could have starved. But it's more than likely it's going to be the cold that killed them. And what's the status of our remains here? 1. Haunted. So if you go poking around those ruins, you're going to find yourself some ghosts, probably. Or, like I said, ghouls or something of that nature. Haunted by the deaths of the people. You wouldn't mind making a single hex for a short game myself. Maybe not a copy, but a unique approach. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, go grab a hex. So, like these guys that we're looking at, because these are scaled. So this is a zoom in, or like a snippet of that big map that we were looking at. So each one of these little hexes is 360 nautical miles across, side to side, which is a lot of miles. Then we zoomed in for one specific hex for our dominion, and that's what we're looking at here. And each one of these hexes is 60 nautical miles across. So they're still very large hexes. We got 2 more scales we'll drop down to. We'll do our county hexes, which are 10 nautical miles across, and then our league hexes when we want to zoom in and we really, really want to know what's going on in a very specific small area. They're 2 nautical miles across. Very useful. I like this scaling. It's 4 layers of mapping, which I then tie to the 4 different tiers of adventure as far as D&D is concerned. So you've got your 17 to 20, so those big atlas hexes, 11 through 16, which is the region hexes that we're working on right here. all the way down to 5 through 10 at the county hexes, and then you go all the way down to your general adventuring scrubs and those levels 1 through 4 and those league hexes, real small hexes. But it all nests like a little Russian nesting doll very, very easily. All right. We got our ruins. We know the ruins. We go straight from remains to ruins. It's going to be a very, very similar process. So I need to roll d12. And next I'll roll this. Interesting. What is the last on humanoids? Alright, so the theme for today, children, is undead. Ruins, undead, makes sense. Totally makes sense. And we rolled a 5. Which means this is the ruins of a crossing. Does that make sense here? Where are we at? Interesting. Yeah, it'll be some sort of passage that probably went through the swamp area. That is the area we kind of talked about maybe being from. Could be a full kingdom collapse. That would be very interesting. Then, like, who would care about your holding? You got a piece of paper from dead king. Could be of any use to you. All right, so we're not going to do that. So we're going to go with whatever we rolled. Perfect. Okay. Ruined crossing. What type of crossing are we doing? We don't really know if it was manned or not because it's ruined. 3 or 2. A 4. So it's going to be one of these. A bridge makes sense. There's definitely an area that there's some span across. I mean, it could just be the ford. It could just be the way through. Then what ruined it? Might have to do an audible here and go with the boardwalk. Ooh, no, it could be like a cool, like, clapper bridge. I feel like a clapper bridge. That's what that's called, right? I'm not making that up, am I? No, I'm not. Yeah. I feel like one of these guys. Clapper bridge that goes through the swamp. It's been ruined. We'll say it's a bridge. We can just say bridge. Let's do this. Alright, occupied. Monsters. Monsters here. Sure. And then we just need to finish out what we got down about the ruins. Age or condition. Okay, recent. Parent cause. Usually 2 and a 3. Accident or attack. I like that. So maybe it's an attack that was made to look like an accident. The parent cause. We'll say attack. Seemed to look like an accident. There we go. I like it. And why hasn't this been taken over, repaired, or whatever? 3 or 7. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Where's there? Do we need a reasoning for this? It's recent, so maybe just... it's also in the swamp, so it's just hard to get to. Also, it was attacked, so maybe those people are still around. Any of these are good answers. We don't necessarily need to know the answers to that right now. We'll leave that as X's for right now. To be, actually, I'll put TBD. How about that? To be determined. We don't know yet. When we're coming up with stuff like this, I don't even know if this area is going to be important to the campaign we're actually going to play in for our solo game, so I don't need to really get too far into the weeds. Gonna head out, make some hexes, then map incarnate. Oh, yeah, that's a cool one. Roll a lot of dice, make a campaign. Yeah, get some NPCs, dice rolling, have that be... Yeah, that sounds cool. I like that. Cool. I get it. Yeah, using like an AI for the NPCs. Yeah, I get that. For doing like dialogue, stuff like that, yeah. Yeah, that sounds cool. I like that. Nice. Alright, let's do 14. This guy right here. Another natural resource. The theme going. 5 and 11, that's going to be Fae. Okay, so this is going to have a Fae theme to it. Or 624. Alright, so we got something exotic. This is also pristine or undiscovered. Might have something to do with the Fae presence. Fae theming. Let's roll. 1. Yeah, there's some monsters here. Probably Fae. I mean, I think we can assume it's probably Fae. Alright, blowing and going. Let's go to construction, which is what we've got next. I guess we should do the theme first. Theme's useful. I don't have to use it, but it's nice to have it. 4 and 10 means that we're going to be right in the natural world. It's going to be another elemental theme. Just like if I need a detail or something about it, it allows me to just like, it's just a quick pull. Be like, oh, this is going to be something elementally related. Okay. Speaking of which, should we do a theme for... Yeah, our Clapper Bridge. Okay, yeah, the undead theme. Interesting. Undead attack made to look like an accident. Oh, that's going to be with me for a while because I'm going on with that. That sparks my interest. I want to know what's going on there. Elemental theme. Perfect. Oracle question. New construction? No, it's a repair. Here, that is 12, so 60% complete. Is it actively being worked on? Yes. Active repair. And we need a D10. What are we actually building here? 5. We're building a crossing. Perfect. This is the perfect spot for that. Because this is going to be right here. So, They're building a crossing across this thing. This is very important for our campaign. Our campaign is a river apart, so if we get across this river thinking there's safety and somebody's building potentially a ferry, unlikely to be a bridge, it's a grand river, so that's a little large to be building a bridge for. Not impossible, but I don't think there's enough infrastructure support here in this corner of the world for them to make such a large bridge. So it's probably going to be a ferry, because it can't be a ford. So it's a ferry across the lake. Very interesting. I like it. We got a ferry across the lake. Active ferry repair. Not even going to roll for it, because I think that's just going to be what it is. And let's roll a d6 for our occupation. You know, we've had pretty much nothing but monsters thus far. And this time, rolled a 6, so it's empty. I thought I changed all these. I feel like these are not the same in different. It's fine. Alright, so it's empty right now. That's a little surprising. I say that's a little surprising because a crossing usually comes with some sort of associated settlement with it. In this case, it would be a village. So, you know, we're talking about hundreds of people should be living here. So if hundreds of people aren't living here, ferry was active previously, but now it's only now being repaired. That's a good question. I don't think I didn't roll for this, so we need to roll for this aspect right here. Maybe this is an old ferry. Nope, it's recent. Interesting. So don't know where else to put it. We'll just put it right here. But this is recent. I don't know. I don't need to get too down the weeds here. I'll put it here. You know what? I'll leave a note for myself because this is weird to me. I know. And ferry was active. Let's say working. It's just a note from me because so that way I remember, hey, this was a weird thing that we rolled up. Might have something to do with the elemental team. Not. Alright. And we have our other holding. This is the more important one that I want to do. I think maybe after that one I'll take a short break. Yeah, that sounds right. So I'm going to do, but let's finish out this holding because this is going to be really important for us. Alright. Let's get our holding done. Still rolled low again, but we got to keep him Bailey. Yeah, but I'm gonna need D20 and a D10. 2 and 1. Alright, so it's gonna be, I believe, construct themed. Construct theme, keep him Bailey. And we rolled an 8. Is a church official. Interesting. Like I said, these could be independent domains, or they should be. Is this an independent domain? I do think that that is likely, so +3. Yeah, okay, so it is an independent domain. So we're going to run an audible on that. Usually I'd be fine with it, but we don't have anything higher level up. We could very easily just let the church person be in charge of this land. But that is probably going to be a little bit too close to the vassal state that we already have. But I think maybe I want an independent person. So we need one of these guys here. All right, you rolled a 9. We're going to have a principality down here. Let me get... And, I'll use a plus sign there. Even Bailey. And the village. Going to be a prince. Prince or princess, we don't know who they are yet. Their title. And they get a bunch of hexes. Alright, they're going to have 11 hexes. Alright, so if we look back here. Yeah, I think we're going to get all these guys. So I think we're going to get 1, 2, 5, 6. Yeah, so I think we'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That feels good to me, I feel like. Yeah, I like that. Alright, so let's over here. Let's do... What kind of color do we want to use? Let's do... That's gonna stick out a little bit. Let's do like a yellow. Yeah. For their border. Drop in the border. Seven, 8. Probably should have done these on the outside. Okay. That now. There. There we go. So this person's large and in charge. They have quite a bit of land holding in this area. They're going to be the primary player for sure. I like it because it's kind of developing this area where it seems like we're probably going to be hanging out back in here somewhere. This is going to be probably the place that we're going to cross. Now, perhaps we'll do that thing where the crossing... the ferry being created is the thing that's going to, or being repaired is going to be the thing that's going to allow us to flee, potentially. Or maybe it will be our flight. I don't know. We'll figure that out as we go along. But I like what we've got here so far. I'm liking this a lot. The last little change I want to do is I want to do this, so that way I can grab this guy. And back in here. Again. That way I can... There. Done. Alright, so that tells us, domain-wise, what's going on here. Very cool. What am I missing? Am I missing anything else? Let's get our other holding. I always feel like I'm missing something. I haven't done the population yet, have I? I have not. Alright. 1, 2, 3. 3. Go, go, go. We'll say that's 970. Perfect. And remember, this is only our second layer of mapping. So we have the Atlas X. So if we go back over to the left, our prince is a very important person, but not important enough that they don't occupy this entire, they don't lord over this entire hex. So that's why they're not represented here. So now you can see this guy's in charge of a lot of stuff. Remember, each one of these is about 60 nautical miles wide. So, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. But these guys, these dominions, are much larger. Way significantly larger. And so this guy is for sure not going to be happy about this little vassal state over here. And this Clapper Bridge probably has something to do... Thinking that maybe... that was the trade route between these two, and that has been potentially attacked. Maybe our prince here did the attacking and has foiled this and is now building a ferry to try to reach out to maybe other people who are further westward. Because it's likely that maybe the only other way across the river was maybe through this person's territory. And they went their own way to get across the river. Now, why are you building it here instead of like here? Maybe because the lake's just easier to get across. Makes sense. Don't have to deal with the stream as much. Current of the river. I like it. Alright, we're going to pick up with Landmark. I'm going to take a quick bio break, and I'm going to refill my coffee. And we'll knock out the rest of this. And, you know, honestly, that's probably going to be it for the stream. This always takes a little bit longer than I thought it would be. But I'm happy to, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, just let me know. Drop them in the chat. And when I come back, we'll answer them and drop back in and keep going. So hang tight, and I'll be back. Alright, okay. Let's get back to it. Alright, we had just finished this holding. We need to start doing our landmarks. We got 3 landmarks we gotta do? Whew, a lot of landmarks. Again. Alright, so we have this. Next up, actually, city. Why do I not have this down correctly? Flip these around. City, landmark, treasure room. Alright, landmark. Good. So, a little theme going for our city. Easy, 5, 10, that's gonna be... Bestial. Thing. I like it. Maybe this has something to do with... Remember, we've got this happening down here. This mess of a religious site plus a monster lair. So these could be related to the celestial theme. Maybe, maybe not. Could be. I like it. Let's hop back over settlements. All right, so we're in the region size, so settlements are going to be between 1 and 60,000. What I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a d10. If I roll a 0, be a 10, we'll bump it up. But probably likely to only be between 1 and 10,000. All right, so 7,990. And you know what? Let's round up. We'll just make it 8,000. We'll make life easy on ourselves. I don't always do that, but I'm gonna say station 8. What else do we need about our city? Probably not a lot. Cities are pretty... This is all stuff for me that is not super for you guys. So if we ever need to go to the city for anything or not. But I do think the city is probably going to have an autonomous leader. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to hop over and we're going to roll for our... We're going to use basically what we had for the holdings to see who's in charge. So let's roll a d10. 1, which means it's a... I believe that means it's noble. If I remember correctly. It is indeed a noble. So, go down here. We'll roll another d10. Which one of these kind of guys is going on here? 5. Alright, so we got a duke. We'll see. We'll say duke in residence. And so that's going to give us a d6 plus 3. So let's find out what we get. Alright, so we're going to get 7. Delicious. Alright, so we're going to have 7 of these bad boys. Now the question is, can we take over this location? Will this be within the bounds? I think it has to be. Then we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Gonna make sense to me. I doubt that they're gonna have try to use things like mountains as like a barrier. Like generally nobody owns the mountain because it's hard to have dominion over highlands. That's just a constant thing. There's the old. It always makes me think of the old Iron Maiden song, "Run to the Hills," when you're trying to escape. And hill people are a big thing in the games that I run, in the worlds that I run. Which is like, hey, there are people who don't want to be controlled by other people, and this is like in the U.S. like an Appalachia kind of area where it's like, you know, there's mountain folks up there, hills have eyes. Not always, or like hills have eyes, but like, yeah, they're weird people who like live in the mountains and in the hills and stuff. And it's really hard to like hold dominion over those people. It's much easier to hold dominion over the lowlands, the highlands. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That all makes sense to me. I like that. And as you've seen, we've pretty much taken up everything here. Now we could, if we wanted to, we could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But I really don't want to put too many things on the other side of this river, because the river is kind of supposed to be our safe spot. Our safe spot. That's where we're going to start the campaign. It's going to be in our wild and free land. Well, wild, yes. Free, will it be ours? Probably not. We'll probably be taking it for somebody. Yay, imperialism. We're going to be kind of bad guys, too. Maybe. We don't know who's going to be there yet. Maybe we are the monsters all along. What's going to be a good color to wrap up this boundary? So we've got yellow. We've got purple. We could use like a nice light blue, maybe? I'd like to save red usually for Oz. So yeah, let's go with like maybe like a, well, and this. Yeah, here. Got a nice light blue, I think that will work right here, because we don't have any water that's going to get confused with over here. Alright, so we said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're just gonna, yeah, because we're gonna get this string here. So yeah, all right. I'm on it now. I know what I'm doing. Okay. And so we're gonna get guy 2 here, here. Go. Perfect. So then I did that correctly, right? 1, 2, 7. Yeah, okay, that's 7. Perfect. That'll leave us one nice little deep forest here, which nobody has dominion over. Great. And then stuff up here. I like it. This will do well for us. What we need to do is, let's fix up our yellow boundaries. Sure. There we go. Yes. So we got right here. Right here. And this makes sense that this Duke's region kind of passes all over the river because they are right at the confluence of these rivers. So they have access to a lot of things on both sides. So rivers, we did our river stream last week where we kind of talked a little bit about rivers tend to either be right in the middle of somebody's like power domain or used as a boundary for it. In this case, it's going to be right in the middle, all the way up through that swamp. Because they basically control this entire part of the Ruhtikh and the Fuster. Alright. I think we're good there. I'm trying to think of it. Is there anything else that we need for our settlement? I don't think so. Cities are pretty easy because the cities aren't... What's important is that there's a lot of people there. And also what's important is, like I said earlier in the stream, is that BP that I use, which is buying power, which is 10% of our population, And that's what sort of goods and services are regularly available in like cash gold value for D&D. That's just the way that I play. That makes it easy for my life. For our purposes, that's very easy. We just move the decimal place. So there's 8,000 people. That means you can buy stuff that's up to 800 gold in price very readily. So we can go get those 500 GP diamonds. We can find those in the city. So we're able to, get our friends back alive when they die, kind of things. So we can find that stuff. That means that we're also probably going to be pretty reasonable to find a lot of magic stuff here. We're starting to be able to get into things like, uncommons? Maybe rares? Rares start at what, like 2,000? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head rather than going in and grabbing my binder that would just tell me. Yeah, I think we could maybe potentially get up to rares. Now, they might not be super accessible. I might still use some of the rules about trying to buy magic items, but it's like if you were in the city and you had the means to buy it, you could find somebody. It doesn't mean like you walk in the shop of ye old magic shop and he's like, oh yeah, I've got all the ultra rare things just right behind the counter. Like, you might have to go find it. There might be an auction house. You might have to use somebody's private collection or something like that, or put feelers out, but you could get them for that money. And a portion of that price might just be tracking down the item and getting it to you. All right, that's our city. Number 20. We're going to move on. Landmark. All right. Landmark. All right, we need a theme. Roll it. 4, that's going to put us right in the natural world. 9 is going to drop us, I think, back into elementals. Monstrosities. Elementals. Alright, so we got another elemental theme. Perfect. That works for us. And let's just roll 2d8. Let's see what we come up with here. I got a 6 and a 7. Elemental theme, so we could have a crater, a canyon, a ravine, a rift if we want to go for something very, very normal landmarkish. Or we could go columns, earthworks, a midden, mosaic, scaffold, wall. These are a little bit more humanoid, artificial creations. Or we can go, weird if we want to go weird. There's other stuff in here. We are not slaves to the dice. We can change our mind if we want to. All right. So, undo. I didn't mean to do that. We do not need the border tool. All right, so we have the Ruhtikh here. It does make me think we should probably do something with the Ruhtikh. Greater canyon. Nah, canyons don't really make sense for where we are here, because if we go back and look, give up a scale. So we are here. So stream, river, Grand River. So we are fully into sort of like the middle course of this river. So probably not going to be a lot of canyons at this point. We don't have any hillsides that it's really cutting through. Double check, but I don't think we got really any higher elevations near us here. We do not. So, craters, a canyon. A crater makes sense. What's our theme again? We have an elemental theme. So if we want to go elemental theme, if we want to lean into that, if we wanted to do columns or earthworks, we could have like maybe some petrified elementals. That'd be fun. We could also do like a spring, a geyser if we wanted to. We could do something like that. Sometimes landmarks are hard to come up with. We do know we basically rolled something very natural, so I like that it being natural. Something I do kind of want it to be river-ish. We could just make it rapids. Rapids are typically an upper course river thing. There's no reason that it can't be here. You'd also say that there's like a log jam here. It kind of makes me want to go log jam. You know what? I'm gonna roll for the Oracle. Is this a log jam? So if I roll, I think 50-50 sounds good. I don't really have anything in my mind. Sometimes I'll roll the dice and if I want to know a yes or no question, and then I get the answer to that question and I go, oh, no, my feelings about that were actually the opposite thing. And now I know because I rolled the die. So 11 or higher, this is log jam. Yeah, all right. I like it. Ooh. Yes. Yes, it's coming together now. I've got it. I've got it. I've got the thought. It happened. My brain cells finally got themselves together. Okay, so this is going to be a log jam. I'm gonna say we'll say elementals. Really what I mean. So they are these crazy creations of logs and water elementals that have soaked in together, and so it's a living log jam. I like that. That makes it weird. And if we're making it weird, we're doing something right. That is my dog barking in the background. We're probably gonna have to let him in. He's been uphill this morning. He's having a morning. Usually a very good boy. Morning, not so great. All right, well, we rolled a 3. That's unfortunate for us because that means that this is, in fact, monster occupied, which makes sense. Probably occupied by a living log jam. Monsters. We've rolled a lot of monster occupations for this. This is a very dangerous land that we have found ourselves in. It happens. Okay, is there anything else we need here? I don't think so. I think this is a good one. So does that really, do living log jams? So I'm gonna put that in there as elementals. So yeah, this is a persistent kind of thing, and there's a reason why people haven't cleared this out. But it is very much a landmark. Like you can go and look at it, as long as you don't, mess with it. They're probably not going to attack you. What is that? So this might be like a water spirit. We'll say like a water spirit. Ish. We'll say shenanigans. Or living log jams with water spirits or elemental stuff kind of going on. It's almost a little fayish. You get into the water spirits and things are like the delineation between what is water elemental and what is like fey water spirit. It really fuzzy. They kind of cross back and forth over each other. They're kind of the same thing in a lot of ways. That's fine. It's in fact, I think, a little bit better if those lines are not so clearly defined as D&D sometimes would have you make them. Be like, it's an elemental, but it is also kind of a fey creature, and it is also a nature spirit. I don't know, it's kind of its own thing. But that way, it kind of gives your players different approaches to how they want to deal with that. If they have somebody who's tied to fey creatures, they can come at it from that aspect. If they have an elemental wizard, they can come at it from that aspect. If they have a druid, they can come at it from that natural side. Given different options for how people want to deal with it. Very useful. All right. Treasure rumors. All right, treasure rumor. Bow. So, the theme. All right, it's gonna be something weird. That's for sure aberration. I don't have to look that up. I have done this way too many times. I have memorized it in some certain ways. Unfortunately. It means I do this way too often. A big map like this. Okay, age. Recent. Okay. It's a recent treasure rumor. You like that? Location. We'll roll 2d8 for funds. 6 and 1. Alright, so cash. 3, 4, 5, 6. Cash or a cistern. Which would, in this case, would be just kind of a collection point. See that? Cash or a collection point. Here. Okay. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's out here in this sort of open plains area. Open sort of. What do we think's out here? It would be a very easy place to hide something. You didn't have a very clear marker. You needed like a ye old treasure map with the X marks the spot, like that, or an itinerary that's like, oh, you need to walk 200 paces west of such and such, and take care. Very much like the I'm thinking what's popped into my mind are more like the maps from like Red Dead Redemption, or more precisely Red Dead Redemption 2. But the first one's got them too, where you get your little treasure maps and stuff like that. Pirates has that. I mean, a lot of games have that, especially those big open world games. So our Red Deads are, I think a lot of the Assassin's Creed ones have them too. They kind of give you an image or something to work off of, like that. So it's gonna be cash. It'll be cash. We'll go ahead and say buried cash. Yeah. Here's one of the things that I do when I do these treasure rumors. These are just rumors that you can pick up in the tavern. It's like, oh, it's a Davy Jones locker, Blackbeard's gold, Treasure Island kind of stuff. Like, oh, there's just like people just know sometimes about stuff that have been buried. Now the problem is that where this changes a little bit is that in the way that I run my games is that sometimes those rumors are not real. They are fake. And so that's what we're going to find out right now. We're going to roll a d6. We rolled a 5. All right, so the thing that is the status about this is that it's hard to reach. For whatever reason, it is difficult to reach. So maybe it's buried way down in the earth. And that is the thing that keeps people from getting it. And so I threw buried in there. We don't actually know buried in cache. This could be like a cave system. Like it's way down in the cave system. Maybe this requires some claustrophobic spelunking or who knows what. I like it. And you know what? We haven't done this, so I'm going to grab the... We're going to throw this over here. I have not put the one here. These documents are always a perennial, eternal work in progress. Never truly done. And let's see if there's... Hey, is there kind of anything going on over here? Any people? Any monsters? We rolled it too. Hey. I don't know why I'm surprised. Almost every time that we've rolled for occupation, it's been monsters. It makes sense. It's about 50% of the time it should be monsters, but we're busting that curve. We're way above the average. But I like this. I like this idea of maybe it's down. And I'll put this in here. Is spelunking? Sometimes I just leave myself little notes. Which is like question mark. Is that what I meant? Maybe. That's an idea. Don't have to use that. Occupied with monsters. Aberrant. Go down there. Uh-oh, beholder. Uh-oh. Whoopsie. Oh, beholder. Hanging out down here. That's not great for us. Now, we don't know what the cache is. This is one of the things, so usually when I'm running the game is I make these like points of interest on the map, and I'll drop them in here. And it'll be, and I like to keep them a little vague so that way I can tie them into whatever the story is that's going on. So I don't need to define what's in there right now. I could if I wanted to. I don't need to. If I did want to do that, I have a table for that first, like a rewards table. And it'd be like, oh, there could be different things you find in here. There could be very specific, like it could be generic magic items. It could be a very specific piece of information. One of the cool things you could find in there is you could find like a deed to some property or something like that. That would be very useful depending on the type of campaign that you run. You want them to set up a bastion or something like that. You could be like, oh, well, they said that, you know, crazy old Henry buried the deed to his property out there in the wild, and you know, he died last winter, so hey, if somebody finds that deed, they get that land. Well, hard to reach, but if you're willing to go get it, and obviously there's monsters in there, so if you're willing to spelunk down into the caves and find what's down in there, kill the beholder or whatever it is, you can get that deed to the property. Bada bing, bada boom, there's an adventure for you. Now you just gotta make the adventure, but I can make it whatever it is. I just want to tie it into stuff that's already going on. So if we knew that NPC had died under mysterious circumstances in the last winter or whatever, I could make that about them. That's it for treasure rumors. So we have our wandering monsters up next. Way over here. So they're out here on the plains as well. This is a wandering monster in our prince's domain. So we have to think very generically about monsters. I say monsters as in these are going to be creatures that generally we will resolve this through combat. These are people who are not seen to be necessarily good people, but they can be people. Just like anything else, they can still be people in the world. Monster doesn't necessarily mean that they're like, I know, like griffins or something like that. I know griffin's not a great example. Like mind flayers or something. We don't know if that's what they are. Let's go to our wandering monsters. So, instead of a theme, we're just going to roll for the monster type, which is literally the same roll. All right, we got a 9. It's definitely going to be an aberration or a weird thing. Okie dokie, we got a celestial. Okay. I don't necessarily need to know the specific type of celestial right now, and that's going to be really difficult for us because celestials, we do not have a lot of stat blocks to work for in D&D. There's only a handful of them. Then when it comes to this, I'll probably, if it ends up coming up with the campaign, I'll have to kit bash something together and make my own probably. Or take a different style of monster and co-opt it into a celestial framework. I'll reskin it as a celestial. Maybe like a devil or a demon or something like that, where they're a lot more of those stat blocks, of a lot more varied levels. We can just be like, we take out everything that seems demonic and make it angelic. And we're done. Very easy way to do that. Alright, wandering monsters. Alright, we know that they are going to be something that's tied for APL 16. That's the scale we're dealing with. And we want to know, hey, what you guys doing here? 1. Uh-oh, they're establishing a lair. Now, obviously, our prince will not be taking too kindly to angels just showing up and making their own lair on their land. Or princess. Again, we don't know who they are yet. Not going to take too kindly to angels from the heavens just coming down and being like, yeah, so this is our land now. They're probably not going to be happy about that. And is there a settlement here? Right. Hey, what do you know? We didn't roll monsters this time. We rolled 5, which I believe is occupied. Nice. Alright, so this was going to be a village. They have come down to a village. Population 730. Again, if we use that BP, we can just take this 5 away and be like, hey, you can buy something that's worth about 70 GP. You can pick that up. So obviously the Celestial has wandered into Celestial or Celestials, we don't know yet. And we could determine that if we wanted to, but we don't even know if any of this stuff will be important to the campaign yet. So I just want to know what's going on in the world, this area. So that kind of gives us some political stuff that's going on. That's nice to work off of. I find that extremely useful to work off of. So I have a very clear understanding about what's going on in the world when the campaign, kicks off. Even if this stuff is going to be way above the pay grade of our adventure, like way above him. Our scrub's going to be like level 1, and this is like level 15 kind of stuff that they're dealing with. I guess we could roll for that. We roll for D6. What exactly APL is this going to be set for? Oh, it's going to be APL 60. I rolled the max. So this is a big beefy. I don't even know if there is something that even makes sense for that. In here, look at our bestiary real. And let's just see if there's anything here. Our challenge rating goes all the way up to 16. You know what? We'll keep it in the area, so we'll keep it at 11. Well, I probably shouldn't punch down. We're gonna keep us with Celestials. Okay, so we got a few. We got some stuff that's down here if we wanted to. Yeah. Okay, so we're getting into areas like Planetars. So some big, beefy Sphinx of Valor. That could be a cool one. Archaic, Gargantuan Celestial. And then we have some low ones. The Sphinx of Lore, Radiant Idol, Pari. So, Pari could be a cool one. We could probably do more than one. We could do a counter builder if we wanted to. Alright. But, no, sorry, that's for creating a monster. We don't need to deal with that right. Alright, so we got options. That's the important thing. So I probably won't have to make something off the dome. And it's more likely, I think, for it to be sometimes when it's a wandering monster, sometimes it's like a lead monster in charge of like a troop of monsters. So we could do a Pari who's in charge of like some Deva or something like that, some lower level Kirin, etc. Or we could just make a bunch of Paris. It'd be like 3 or 4 Paris. Makes sense. All right. Let's go to this one. So this one's going to be a little bit more complex. We haven't done one of these yet because we only have one on the map. This is a double. So sometimes when we roll, the result is on our D20 table is, hey, you should roll twice and combine. So we did that, and we got a religious site and a monster lair. So let's do the religious site first. So this will be very important. I want to know the theme for sure. So let's get the theme out of the way first. 3 and 18. So that's going to be something au natural. It's going to be plant themed. Interesting. Now we'll do a theme also for the monster layer as well. That'll give us a good way to be like, how do these two things interact together? Let's do the plant theme. I like it. And I just lost where I was. There we go. About how old is this thing? Ooh, we rolled a 6. That means that this place is ancient. This is an ancient site. So it's old. So, quick little question. Because of where we are in my homebrew world, specifically, there's a high likelihood, because there's actually 2 separate pantheons in this world. 2 larger religions. I'm going to roll a d6. 1 through 3, it's going to be the primary pantheon. That's the one that's most well known across the world. It makes sense for this area. On a 4 or 5, it's going to be some sort of folk religion thing. So this would be something that's going to be a little bit more druidish, like druidic. Very much sort of folktale, supernatural, mysticism, animism kind of stuff. And then if I roll a 6, it'll be religion 2, which is actually on the western continent primarily. And it would be weird for it to be here, so that would be its own thing. Especially since we don't have any elves or humans here. They're the primary people who live on that continent. Okay. For Pantheon 1. Good. Just need to get it out of the way. You know what? I'll write it this way. Ancient site for Pantheon 1. We could figure out which god or multiple gods it's for. It's a true, like, Hellenistic Greek pantheon. So, unlike D&D, how D&D generally treats, like, clerics in religion, where it's like, well, I worship Kord, and that's the only god I worship. And it's like, nope. People worship the whole pantheon. You don't just worship Athena, you also worship Zeus and Ares and everybody else, Poseidon, etc. It's you go to the right person for the right thing. But some temples or sites are dedicated to one specific deity. That is not uncommon. But we don't even know if this is going to be a temple yet, is the thing. So let's get us a little theme going. Sorry, we got a theme. We need 2d12. 5 and 12. Okay. So it could be a cloister or a commune. I like it. This is something I've been working on recently, is the cloisters or communes, so it does kind of make me want to do that. Or it could be a wayside altar prayer. We did say that this was, well, it is for Pantheon 1, but it is very old. So that makes me think maybe not a cloister or commune. But I'm not against it. We could take each of these things and smash them together. That's what I like to do. So let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's roll a d4. That's down here. 3. So 1, 3. All right. So I love it. So there's going to be like a prayer tree. So it's going to be like an ancient, I guess, evergreen tree. Well, let's look at our map. Yeah. So there's going to be like an ancient evergreen tree here, probably. An ancient fir. I like this. I like it. I like it a lot. Goes with our plant theme perfectly. Love it. There's going to be some ancient fir tree. Love that. And then 4 or 5, we have a cloister commune. And I mean, cloister or commune. I think it's going to, I'm going to roll a d10. I'm going to do an 80-20. I think, now I'm changing my mind. I was going to say 80% chance that it'll be a cloister and not a commune. And then 20% would be a commune. But now I'm changing my mind because it's so old. That might make more sense that it's a commune rather than a cloister. I should probably specify the difference in my head. So a cloister is what we think about like a monastery or a nunnery or something like that. An abbey. Its place. They are cloistered away from civilization. They're segregated. away from most people. And it's dudes, occidental haircuts, riding in scriptoriums, doing that kind of thing, taking vows of silence, etc. Communes are more like a hippie, we all live together kind of thing, free range hippie commune kind of thing, where it's like, oh, these people have just kind of optioned themselves out of the normal structure of civilization, and they just have this plot of land that they're on. And it's also kind of like cultish, like a cult compound. So now I think that there's probably like a 50-50 chance. Okay, so if I roll high, we'll go commune. If we roll low, we'll go cloister. How about that? All right, so it's going to be cloister. So now we're reaching a crux where I've been sitting where a thing that I need to develop because I've been thinking about it is like, okay, so there's Abbey's Priories, cells and ranges, kind of. I need them. I want to map the structure specifically to my different mapping. So this I think makes more sense to be. You know what? I don't have to come up with this. I don't have to do this off the dome. We can go look because I have done the thing. We need to go to holding, and we need to go from holding down right here to religious officials. I've got religious officials over here, and it'll just tell us. How about that? So we're in the region. Okay, so that's going to be an abbot or abbess. So this will, for sure, be an abbey. Got it. Perfect. So this is going to be an abbey. And again, we're still working on the first half, so this will be a very in-depth place. We also know that this is the monster layer, so this is most likely where probably our capstone encounter is going to happen for our capstone adventure for this entire campaign. If we make it that far, you know, knock on wood, that we get all the way here from level 1 to level 11 to do this. This is likely to be what that will be. So it's okay that we're spending some time on it to figure that out now, because I'm gonna need some info to start percolating on that stuff in the background, right, as we start playing, as to how this will end up being sort of like the end boss. And it could be full JRPG style where it's just like, and then we kill God, right? Because that's what you do at the end of JRPGs, you kill God. that is the trope. All right, we got our religious site. Everything looks good here. Let's do a D6. All right, so this place is occupied, which is good. That all makes sense. All right, well, I can't do any of those. All right, 675. We have that plant theme. It's an ancient fir tree. The pear tree and abbey on one. I'm gonna put down here. Plus, my stupid head's not in the way. Plus, we got other things that are happening here. We gotta do our monster lair. All right. Roll twice. Bring it our theme. Ooh, our theme is definitely going to be aberrant. But our monster is actually going to be natural. Very interesting. We can always change that if we want to, but it's going to be 7 and then 10. I'm going to avoid saying the two numbers. All right. So let's get over here. celestial theme. That makes total sense. And then elemental. Okay. So we have a celestial theme. We're gonna have an elemental BBEG, which is really cool. That means that we can start pulling in things like level 11. We can start probably diving into things like 3D, Dow, Marids, those kind of big Jin elementals, which are usually it also gives us a little celestial theme for this layer, which makes sense. So maybe it's something that's deep under the roots of the tree. Maybe the tree, like tree stride, maybe the tree is a portal to some other area. Perhaps planar. Don't necessarily need to figure that out right now. Giving ourselves some ideas. We're thinking about things. All right. D6. And another D6. 3 and 6. All right, so it's a natural structure. And it's empty. All right, good. The juices have started flowing again. And occupied. Great. I love it. It makes sense because we already have a village of people here. It would be weird if there were like people and monsters right on top of each other. Not impossible. There are definitely ways to make that happen. It's usually one of those groups is generally in control of the other group. So either it's, people have, enslaved kobolds or something, and they're using kobolds for forced labor, or vice versa. Typically, the kobolds serve the dragon, and the dragon requires tribute from the village. I'm gonna pull this in way. We can do a CR for our big bad guy. Okay, that makes sense. Couldn't have gone any better. Means that it's an elemental BBEG, our big bad evil guy, will be roughly a challenge for average party level 11, which is great because that's exactly what we want to capstone this campaign at. So we've got that. The dice couldn't have gone any better for us. Now that doesn't mean that we use a CR 11 creature. It just means that like that person, that encounter with them will be for a party of this level. So it could be a much higher CR elemental, or we could have multiple. It'll be them with their buddies, their mooks, who will make it APL level appropriate. This is perfect. It's gonna go really great. So I like having the celestial thing. The thing that I said was percolating for me already. I'll just put it in here. So natural structure dungeon means that it's like an organic structure most of the time. Most of the time that means like, oh, it's caves, or like the adventure I just ran for the campaign that I'm running. I was like, oh, well, the adventure is a natural dungeon, which means it's on the mountainside. The mountainside is the dungeon. You're following trails and switchbacks up and down it from different camps and finding different things. Like that's the natural aspect of it. It still functions kind of like a dungeon because you can't just run up the side of a mountain because of the pitch, but it gives you the idea of you can structure it as a dungeon even though it's technically an outside place. You can do the same thing with like a forest. If we wanted the forest to be the dungeon, because if we look at this, we realize it's in a forest. We can have it be this labyrinthine forest that they have to go through, and as they do that, these holy woods, and as they go through that, they eventually arrive at the elder ancient fir tree that's there with this abbey around it. Who may be corrupted by dark powers, maybe just power hungry, maybe, uh, maybe not in charge of an abbey, maybe not a cleric, maybe a celestial patron warlock, and the celestials don't necessarily have to be good. They can be bad celestials. So that gives us some options. You know, it could be we have the classic trope of being like, oh, the good is like, oh, humanity is the problem, the thing that's wrong with the world, so it's time to cleanse the world of the pestilence that is humanoids. You're like, oh, well, technically a good guy, but you know, not a bad, not a good resolution style. uh, their goal is admirable, but the means of which they want to do that is not great, especially for us as humanoids. So we gotta stop that person. Perfect. I love it. All right, we got a hazard. Well, we know we're gonna need a theme. 1 and 8. What is 8? Gigantes. Giant theme. Uh-oh. Look at our hazard. Number 20. So we can do our origin if we want to. Sure, why not? We'll roll a d6 again. 6. Alright, well that's weird. Theme. Weird origin. And we'll roll 2d6 and see if we can slam these together. I needed to develop the hazard one a little bit more. There's not a lot going on here. 5 and 2. Flora. And a trap. Let's look at our map. What's going on here in the square? Alright, so it's out in the plains. I love a good trap. Love a good lotus eaters. Magical flora that charms people. I like all these things. We can use the giant theme to be like they are large flora. Let's see. So trap plus flora. And it's in the middle of a plains, so. And it's got something weird going on. There are a number of plants that we could use. Shrieker's one of my favorites. I do love a good shrieker. Let's our bestiary. Do our filters. We're good there. We're gonna do that. We're gonna go with plant. So it really only gives us 2 things that could be this. If we wanted to use a plant thing. The Spore of Moander. Explosive Core. Tendrils, Consume. Okay. And the Gulthias Blight. An oldie but a goodie. Light Seeds. Mm-hmm. I like this. I'm looking specifically down here at the life draining root. Yeah, I'm gonna use this. I think this will work for us. Life draining root. I'll tweak this. This isn't how it's gonna show up in the end, but it gives us a good idea. I'm gonna grab it, and that way, when it comes up, I can tweak it and rework it. This makes sense later because it's CR16. This would be really tough for any characters going through here. So we're gonna call this. We're gonna say this is let's say Crimson Prairie. Let's see. So I'm thinking this is a Crimson Prairie. It's man high crimson grass, so like you can't. It's going to be taller than most people, than a lot of people, especially we know that good good chunk of our population are halfers or gnomes slash halflings, so they are definitely going to be too short to be going through this stuff. That's how we're pulling in that giant theme. Weird origin. We don't know the origin of it specifically, but it's Crimson Prairie. We can always change it later. And it is a crap that grapples and just life. Creatures. The grass. A crimson hue. So we're gonna change this. We'll say the man-eating prairie. That's a better name for what we want. So it's a man-eating prairie. Trap the grapples and leeches. Yeah. We'll say tweak. Goliath. Goliath. Light. But that's CR16. Life what root? Life draining root. There. Oh, they'll tell me, hey, remember to go look at that. Perfect. Prairie. So this will be a cool thing. This will be something that's like, oh, if they have a druid in the party, or they have somebody who's particularly knows. The Goliath tends to be like necrotic, so maybe knows about undead sort of stuff. So it could be arcane, could be religion. That they can identify this. It's only going to be like a patch within this big prairie. the thing is like kind of like lets them walk into it, and then as they get into it, it grabs them and tries to pull them towards the center as it grapples them, and as it does, it sort of leeches life out of them. So once they get in there, they'll probably start, if it doesn't immediately attack them or they're for some reason sneaky in the prairie, they'll start kicking through a bunch of like bones and stuff that are in the tall grass, and they're like, oh no, something's about to happen. Then the thing will happen. And then we'll deal with it from there. But that's where we'll go now. I think this will work really well. So let's move on from here. Hazards are always a little bit weird. I always feel like I have to come up with something off the cuff because D&D doesn't give us a lot of really cool hazards. We kind of have like yellow mold and some slimes, and that's kind of it. We don't give us a lot of really evocative kind of hazards. In certain adventures they do, like certain adventures have very specific things, but those are more custom to that, and then there's no way to, they're not like monsters, so there's no way to like find them or search them that way. Even traps are kind of like that. There's only like a handful of like bog standard traps, and then there are custom traps, but they're like buried in adventures, and there's no lexicon of them anywhere. There's no archive of them anywhere for you to like search and try to find one that's just fun. So we end up having to make up a lot of these, which is unfortunate. It'd be nice if we had something like that. If that's something you guys are interested in, maybe that's something we can do on channel in the future. If you're interested in that, we can build together some sort of lexicon or a document that allows people to come up with things like this much easier and pull from. All right, let's move on to 27. Right next door. That's going to be another evergreen tree. We've got another landmark here. Let's find out what's going on. We might as well go ahead and roll D6. Another D20 for our theme. 3 and 4. That is going to be a beast. I don't have to look that up. It's going to be a beast theme. And we'll roll 2d8. We come up with something interesting. 8 and 6. 6 is going to be that crater, canyon, ravine, or rift again. And then 8 is a geyser, artesian, hot spring. Are any of these related to necessarily a beast? Not really. Again, some of these don't make sense for where we are on the map. I mean, there could be a ravine through here. We could very easily drop a ravine in there. Or a rift. Yeah, so I mean, we could put a spring in here. But it's not it's a landmark. It's not a resource. So nobody's coming here to get water. Or use it. What to do? A ravine is a good landmarker, though. Yeah. I think I'm going to throw an audible here. We're going to use animal path and ravine. I think that will work better for us. I kind of look at, because I think it'll be important to know what kind of animal that is, because that's how people will talk about it. Let's look at some bees. Now the problem with beasts is there's basically nothing on the high end of CRs. We get basically nothing, like none of this stuff. These are all unknown. These are all, and the only thing that they're showing us for the most part here are like your summoned spirits and familiar stuff. So none of these are good. That's not unusual. We just, like, for a game that's been out for over a decade, come on guys, you got to give us some higher level beasts. We got to have more than a handful of celestials. Like, you got to give us some more stuff. really could have used like a second monster manual, you know, after 10 years. Would have been nice to have them. It just wasn't just a reprint of the same monsters, but had like a whole bunch of new and different monsters, especially monsters of all different types, all different like categories that scaled. One of the things that I don't think 5e 2024 has done very well. So we can go up to the highs, but that's pretty much just going to be dinosaurs. I don't really run a dinosaur style game. I've always been kind of weird to me that they're in D&D to begin with. It's like in a game where we have dragons, I don't know why we also have dinosaurs in there. Why don't we just have cooler dragons? Or different types of lizards? Why do we have to have actual dinosaurs in it? That's neither here or there, though. Alright, the heck is a whirlworm? You know what? Let's do it this way. We know that we're going to be in a forest, so let's get us a habitat. Those are all planers. Forest. What we got going on in the forest? Big old monkeys. We could put some monkeys in there. Technically apes. It'd be fun. We could put a Sasquatch in here. I'm fine with that. We can put some boars in here. We have some good options in here. What else we got? We got a bear. Always, I love a bear. My party just got done messing around with a bear. Things went a little bit worse than they wanted it to. Probably not a hippo. There's no water nearby for our water horses. Wolves are always a good one. Is there anything else that we can add in here? Not really. But do you think it's just going to be a ravine and animal path? So sometimes they're a little boring, and that's okay. Sometimes we need some boring stuff in there, because then it makes the stuff that's not mundane seem way more special. If everything's special, nothing's special kind of situation. So if sometimes it's just like, hey, there's just a ravine that has like a 4-pack track through it. Okay. Fine, sure. That makes sense. Probably not gonna fight something here. Probably. There's. I do kind of like some big ass Eurasian style boars mucking up the place. I do kind of like that, but we are also Tiger. So we could take this elk and if we wanted to beef it up, because I don't think we have. We can make us some moose. Yeah, let's go with that. We'll do a glow up on that elk stat block because the elk is certainly bigger than elk. Yep. I mean, sometimes it's just really silly and simple, and that's okay. It'll make all the other stuff look so much better because it's here. But of course, it's going to be occupied by monsters. So, that could be the moose. That could be, maybe there's some dire wolf packs that are hanging out around here. Maybe something else. There's some big cats. Maybe a lion. It's important to remember that lions used to be in Europe until we kind of hunted them out. But there used to be lions in Europe, so it does kind of make sense that we could have them here. Even though now we think primarily lions of Serengeti, but they did live in the temperate areas too. Like we have tigers in Bird areas. So we'll put that in here. We go like big cat, wolves, etc. Now we don't have to go with the beast thing. We could make them gnolls if we wanted to lean in. We could do that. They're like beasts, but they're technically monstrosities, I think. Sometimes they're humanoids. I don't know. D&D kind of keeps messing around with gnolls. Depending on the gnolls you get, sometimes they're fiends. So, like I think Flynn's are fiends, right? Alright. You know, there's not much to say about it, unfortunately. I feel like it's a little bit of a letdown, like we should have more here, but hey, sometimes I think I need to avoid making that correction. I think I need to avoid being like, I should put more here. I don't even know if this is going to come up in the game. May or may not. So it's okay that it's maybe underbaked. And again, it's just supposed to be a landmark, just so people can tell you about it, so you can orient yourself as to where you are. You're like, oh, there's a ravine big enough for like a moose pack or herd to travel through. So it's a big ravine. There obviously used to be a river there somewhere. If we want to make an adventure about it, it'd be like, oh, actually, what happened to that river? Because there's no river now. And then you go find, maybe it's dammed up, maybe something else is going on. Maybe these monsters are not big cats or wolves. It could be like always makes me think of, anytime I think about dammed up rivers, it makes me think of the very beginning Fandelver adventure where you go into the Goblin Cave and they have the dammed up water that they can wash you out with. Always makes me think of that for whatever reason. I think because it's one of the only times that I see water ever be used like that in a D&D adventure, which I thoroughly enjoy. All right, well, we got one more landmark, and then we're gonna have this done, and then we're gonna have to sit down and decide what we want to do. I think I'm gonna work on county stuff off stream. I think I'll work on the county map off stream because I'm not doing all of this and scaling it down to county hex, because that's massive, and if I don't know where I'm going yet, it doesn't make sense. I'll do it for whichever hex it is that we're probably going to start in, but I'm not going to do that off the bat. So I'll need to sit down and do some percolating about how I want this campaign to kick off, because I think we're getting close to that. We just need to build our PC. Now that we have some information about what's going on here, that gives us some better idea. So I'll do that. We'll probably do that on another stream. I think probably our next stream will probably be focusing in on maybe building the character at this point and figuring out how we're going to kick off the campaign. Because I think we've reached the point where it's like, if I build any more, do any more world building for the world, I'm really just world building for world. And I don't necessarily need to do that. So, it seems to me like we are going to start off probably here. We could start off here. I think it makes more sense to start off here. In this holding, this prince, who's going to have their own court of nobility that are under him. So we've got all these people who could be, we'd have people with. So we will probably need to figure that out. Now look, if I drop this down to the county size, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. If I took 11 times, what is it? It's going to be, let's just do the math. There's 31 county hexes in each one of those regions hexes. There are 11 of those bad boys. There are 341 hexes. I gotta tell you, we're probably gonna come up with at least some of these will be like I'm just trying to estimate how many nobility we'll have at that next layer. we'll say that probably at least half. Yeah. Do that by 20. We should probably at that next county level have roughly 8 to 9 people who are hanging out in that area, which is going to be barons, viscounts, counts and earls, marquises, and then below that we'll have even more because we'll have that again, and we'll end up with a bunch of barons, baronets, and knights, and lords and ladies. We don't need to know the full total court of everybody. We don't need to know that at this point. But it's enough for us to guess as to where we want to be. So we'll need to figure out probably in the next stream as to, like I said, I think I want to start this out where we have a father or a mother or an uncle, or we've got some sort of family tie who is already nobility, so we are nobles. I will need to figure out like what level of nobility they are. I think that they've got to maybe be in this area. I think they've got to maybe be in that next county scale. They've got to be marquis, count / earl. I generally use count, viscount, or baron. To be important enough that they have enough people who are trying to stop them from accessing our prince. So that makes sense to me. That puts them in the 5 to 10 like APL level range, that second tier of adventure. And so I think that makes sense that our holding is in this bottom part, and we're going to be granted, I could see us probably being granted off the river, so maybe here. It's like we could be going through the swamp as to what our holding's going to be, because I get a feeling that our holding will probably be bordering on one side of the river. And I think generally how we're going to do that is we'll be given, we'll kind of know the hexes, but we'll be given like, sometimes like stuff like that is like, oh, well, you get a domain from the prince, and the prince is like, oh, well, if you can ride, how far you can travel from where you start to where you finish in so many hours riding alongside the banks of the river gives you that dimension of your domain. And then if you go another how far away from the river you can run gives you the other side, so that gives you the L shape of what your domain is, and then you can just, it gives you, well, you can infer what the other side's going to be. Then there'll be a setup. We'll know that once we go in. I like that. I think that will work, and we'll try to do that too, because we have rules for like hex crawling. So we'll have a thing where we're going to be like, we'll scout. It'll be part of probably the very early processes. We're going to be dropped on the other side of the river. We're going to do a full-on like hex crawl as we try to figure out the place that we want to set up our like our little dominion and our little estate, our holding, and so we can figure out a good place that's going to be good for us. So we'll scout out our path. We'll try to get the fastest horse probably we can, and ride with reckless abandon, trying to set up the largest boundary we can in the time limits that are given to us. We will probably also have some sort of adjutant or somebody from the court of the prince who will have to witness us doing this, and so that way it's all legal and they'll sign off on it. Who, in this case, if they're sending somebody for us, we could be like, it's probably one of these minor officials. They'll probably be sending like a custodian or something like that, or a steward, or actually they might send a warden. The warden would probably be the person who will be the person who kind of is attached to us for the process of marking out the boundaries of our land, which is down the line. We gotta make our character first, and we gotta figure out how the heck we're gonna get there. But I have the idea in my mind what that early part of the campaign is gonna, as far as that's concerned. So for today, what we're going to do is we're going to finish up this last landmark, and I think we're going to call that for today's stream. So let's do this last one. We got one more landmark right down here. We got to do this one at the bottom of the Princess Domain. Let's figure out what's it going to be. We're going to need a theme. No, this is elemental, right? It is indeed elemental. Elemental theme. Roll our 2d8. And I'll roll a d6 as well. Go ahead and get it out of the way. 2. Alright, well, we know it's going to be, again, occupied by monsters. This is a dangerous land, my lord. A dangerous, dangerous land. And we got a 4 and a 2. As far as our ancient carvings, I like it. Cave system or warren. Alright, let's look what's on the here. We've got this is yellow, yeah. Alright. So the yellow trees mean that this is let me do extra down here. Scooch down a little bit so you guys can see it over my stupid fat head. Alright, so we're right here. So the yellows, you'll notice that there are trees that come, these evergreen trees are generally green. Then there's the heavy forest, hard to get through. Then you'll notice that we have these yellow ones. These yellow ones are dry forest. That means that they're like about half forest, half prairie or grasslands. So they're a mix. Dry forest is really more of a tropical temperate thing. So it's a little weird to have them, but there's like you're gonna have some stunted pine trees here because they don't, unlike a normal forest, they're not gonna lose their leaves like a dry forest would, where it just kind of becomes in the summertime just becomes a plain with a bunch of trees sticking out of it, but no leaves. It's more of a monsoonish thing. That's not gonna happen here. So this is more of like a 50% open areas, 50% trees. So it's nice open space. So I think that we can do some glyphs. I like the glyphs. I like carvings. Or cave system. I like that too. I think honestly, I'm good with any of these. And because I'm good with any of them, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll 2d6. And it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we'll pick one from each and we'll slap them together. Okay. Oh. Ancient carvings and a cave. This will be and we'll say filled. Good. Remember that we have this elemental theme, so that could be, it might be in one of the elemental languages. And I mean, think they're more like pictographs. This is going to be like an ancient caveman kind of thing. Where it's like, oh, there's things that people have carved, like ancient peoples have carved here. Like, this was clearly a very important thing. And this, we'll say it's a large cave. And we'll see. Scrawled with. They entirely scrawled. A little bit more evocative language for ourselves. Large cave, entirely scrawled. I mean, we can say covered. Yeah, we can leave it that way. Entirely scrawled with the carving. So I'm thinking like they're on the ceilings, they're on the outside around the actual opening of the cave. And so the cave itself is a very good landmark as you look at the cave and you go like, oh, well, that's clearly the place that people were talking about. Not like the other caves. This one is absolutely chock-a-block with carvings. So you see that and you go, all right, well, I know I'm headed in the right direction then. Head off from there. Yeah, again, so it seems, even though this is a relatively simple one, again, just like the previous landmark, they're not all super important. Like the living log jam was fun, but they can't all be living log jams suffused with elementals. Now we could have the elementals do something fun. Like we could, all right, let's, more fun. You guys want fun in your D&D games? All right, well, I rolled a 6 on that oracle die, so that's going to be a no. I was going to say one of the things we could have is have them be living scrolls, like the images that are active, like the carvings actually move around the surfaces. Could be like one of those things where it's like when you're not looking at it, that's when they move, and when you look back, they don't move. And you're like, wait, that image was over there earlier. But I didn't roll that, so these are just going to be super mundane ones. Sorry. Hey, we rolled on the natural side. We didn't roll on the weird side. So sometimes that happens. But yeah, that's going to be it, I think, for today. So we got a lot accomplished. So this is done, which was the primary thing I wanted to get done today. So this is done. So next time, I think when we pick this up, what we're going to do is we'll pick it up and we'll start focusing in on making our character and trying to figure out what that opening to the story is going to be and where we're going to go. And I think what we might do is we might do a little prelude, a little preface, if you will. Not like a full necessary adventure, but maybe like a session, maybe 2 sessions, maybe 3 sessions. I can't imagine more than 2. Or maybe we're going to meet some of the handlers for our main character before we meet the character. We'll meet a couple of sidekicks first. Probably the person who's supposed to go get our main character from the prince's court and take them to their new holding to help get them set up, because I think that's what we're going to have. I think we're going to have probably 2 helpers, and so the original people who will leave will be like the 2 helpers, our main character, and then the probably going to be the warden coming from the prince's court to set up. Actually, we might have to send for that person. We'll probably have to send for that person. There'll probably just be the 3 of them. And so I think I'm going to have an introduction like that, like I said, a preface, where we're going to have the 2 kind of come across, get the idea that something weird's about to happen. Like something weird's happening. They're going to see something on the road or something like that on their way to go pick up their lord. They're going to be like, something weird's happening. I think they're going to get the sniff. They're going to get the eyes on like, hey, somebody's about to come for our guy, so we got to go get our guy and get the heck out of here. That way we can kick the campaign off with kind of like a sharp snap, because I don't think that our main character is going to be smart enough or wise enough to kind of know that. So I think we're going to have to rely on our more senior sidekicks to kind of pull their butt out of the fire to start off the campaign and get them to a place of relative safety, or at least away from where people know where they are. But yeah, that is pretty much everything, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for watching me do this. Hopefully this was super useful for you. You guys can see a little bit about like how I create stuff up like that, like start to build up a little corner of my own big world, and how we can kind of convert this over to start running a campaign in it. And we have a lot of ideas about things that can happen. And sure, it takes us a little bit of time. Again, you do not need to do all this mapping and all this stuff. If you want to freewheel it and just take the best of these ideas and make it your own pepper and spice in your own game, for sure go do that. You for sure do not need to do what I'm doing. This is a very specific way that I do it. Doesn't mean that it needs to be your way. But hopefully you got something out of it, and you can see, I think it's helpful just to see other people build stuff, so that way you can get an idea of what you like, what you want to take, and the things that you want to leave behind, which I totally understand. If you want to see more of this content, obviously you can subscribe and follow and do all that stuff. If you like it, thumbs up if you're over there on YouTube. That's much appreciated. All the engagement's always super helpful for us. trying to build the channel and get the name out. Down in the description, we have information over on YouTube. If you're watching this over on Twitch, by the way, we have a YouTube channel where it has all the VODs are saved. If you want to see more of this mapping, where we've done lots and lots of other mapping, we've done lots and lots of other mapping. Like here, before we hop off, I'll show you some of the big mapping we've done. How about that? There's a little amuse bouche to get you excited from maybe some other stuff. Let's see. We got some region maps here. Yeah, let's do our left continent. X's with maps and the POIs. There we go. All right, I'll throw us back over so you guys can see it. Last time we, because we don't need to look at that. Here we go. Go back up. All right, so this is the left continent, the one that I said that secondary pantheon religion is from. And this is the entire thing done down into region hexes. We filled this all out with points of interest just like we did today. This is how long I've been working on some of this stuff. So that's the thing. It's the biggin. You, again, I need to be clear, you do not need to do any of this. And I've actually gone back in, I've replaced all the little red hexes, which tells us where the larger hexes borders are. And I filled those in completely. But if you want to see what it looks like this is by the way the smallest continent in the world. We filled out. We're working on the middle continent right now, which is the middle in where it is on the world and middle as in size. And then there's a large continent, and man, feels like I'm putting that off because that one's gonna take me forever. Not a bad thing, but it will take me forever. But hey guys, thanks for hanging out. Subscribe, do all that stuff. We have a drive-through RPG shop. It's everything in there is pay what you want. If you want to find some additional resources for Dungeon Master Game Masters, you can see that. We also have the blog over at redragonfiend.com. So if you want to see this world building process from the very, very beginning, watch me make like plate tectonics for this world. You can go check that out, and it gives you the process for how to do all that stuff. That's it for me, guys. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys next time, alright? Bye!